Okay. So last week I was talking about the shadow, which hit me in the brain so hard in 2023 that I went into a 9-month psychosis because I had run into the light and hid there for so many years that my shadow came as a literal autonomous being and possessed me and then ended up cohabitating with me. Like I am literally possessed by what has become an autonomous shadow being. How's that for an opener? Robin has an entity inside her. It's true. So when I talk about the shadow, I'm not messing around. Like this is something that I have direct experience with and that I had to go to war with for 9 months. And when I say psychosis, I mean this being came into my life sort of disguised as, or maybe even some sort of part of a real person, like a big archetypal public figure, and got into my head and got into my body so that I was walking around with this man all the time. And what I see that as, and I talked about the shadow, so let me just recap and be really clear because this is some cool stuff I have to talk about today. The shadow is, what about yourself are you turning away from or denying? And how long are you doing that? So for me, I famously had this dream when I was a kid that I buried my brother. I don't have a brother, but in my dream brother in the yard to save him from the apocalypse. And in 2020, I went back into that dream on purpose and I dug him up and he was a grown man and he was violent and screaming and threw himself on me. And that was kind of the beginning of, so to break it down in psychological terms, when I was a kid, I took my darkness, I took my masculinity, I took my strategic thinking, and I buried him. And you can see I talk about Sophia and the demiurge. You can see this as a theme. The fracturing between feminine and masculine and light and dark is an oversimplification. But Sophia creates without her masculine side. And then from that is born this monster, the demiurge, who wants to control and possess her creation and turn it into this restrictive dimension that he can feed on. That's exactly it's a perfect echo of what happened to me. So bear with me, and I'm going to tell my story and help you understand integrating the shadow and playing with the shadow and why that's so important. So I spent my whole life being a good girl and being a submissive girl, and I was like a walking fawn response. I had, I think, a sociopathic father who I loved very much, but I had to be perfect. And there was an underlying danger always around me in everything. And so I think I buried that brother so that I could be the good girl. I thought that's what I wanted to be. And it was karmically safe to be a good girl. So I had the crap kicked out of me in my life. Because and that's what the shadow, I mean, this is so important, guys. The shadow isn't just, oh, you want to hurt people and you deny that part of yourself and you put it away. That's part of it. But I think a lot of people who are quote unquote good people, and especially women, don't really recognize that their shadow is actually where their power is, and that the problems in their life stem from the rejection of their shadow. I don't want to hurt anybody, so I'm going to keep getting hurt because I can't stand up for myself and be dangerous in a world that actually requires it. So I buried the part of myself that would have been dangerous. And what happens when we do that is that part becomes an autonomous being. It develops a life of its own. And Carl Jung talks about this. It's archetypes, archetypal possession, animus possession. So animus is, for me, the masculine part that I have buried, the animus and the anima. The animus in woman is the masculine aspect that she is denying within herself, and he is violent and critical and possessive, and he becomes his own being. So for me, this being that came in the form of a famous man he put me through the ringer, because from his perspective, it was like, so she's been at the helm of this body this entire time, with me buried in the yard. And she's been, in my opinion, a loser. You know, this man is highly successful, highly strategic, highly intelligent, and he loves people who are accomplished. I was accomplished in a small way, but without the drive, without the strategy, without the criticality of that masculine aspect of myself, and the brutality, to be frank, I was wilting in the world. And he came to say, I'm going to possess you. His goal was to take over the body, just like the demiurge took over Sophia's creation. He wanted to take over my body, and he literally tried. And I will tell you, possession is very real and very, very scary. What possession is like, I fought for 3 hours in a hotel room for my body, and he started to get in. He was spreading his molecules throughout me, and he was gleeful, and he was really happy, and he was expressing that glee through my body. So try to imagine your own consciousness. You're conscious in your body, but you're not the one moving your hands. You're not the one laughing. And I started to smell like death. I smelled like him. And he smelled bad. And I was sweating like crazy and just trying to fight him off. And I did fight him off to a degree, and I'll tell you how I did it. And what's happened since then is, instead of attempting to possess me, he cohabitates, and he's quiet and respectful. But to get to that point, I had to go through 9 months of learning how to deal with this person, with this being, with this animus. And one of the first things that I learned, and this is a big, big point I want to make for humans in the shadow, with the shadow, is not trying to beat him or end him or get rid of him. And I think you can see, do an exorcism, cast out the evil, get rid of the dregs of society, deport people, that to me, in personal experience, this man's 10 times my size, I swear to God, and several $100 billion wealthier. I can't fight him off. And he's also me. So what I learned was, I had to learn how to essentially make him like me. It's like I had to learn the lessons that would make me less of a target to him. So I think that looking at yourself from the demon's perspective, looking at yourself from let's call it demonic. It's not literally demonic, but that's an easy word for this kind of evil thing that's trying to possess you. He's chaos, he's power, he's strength, he's brutality. And he looks at this woman, and at the time he saw naivete and stupidity and wasted potential and arrogance. When you're in love and light and you're in the stage of spiritual bypassing, you think, I'm God's chosen one, I just have to be happy, and I'll sit up in heaven every day, and I'm walking around in my little dresses feeling all pretty. And I was, to him, I solicited from him a violent response. And the more you flaunt the light, the more you aggravate the dark. And to me, I can almost see it like an elastic band. You're pulling and pulling and pulling that elastic band towards the light, and you're putting increased tension between you and the other side of the band where the darkness is. So what I had to do was relieve the tension by coming in a little closer to him. And so instead of trying to be like, oh, he thinks I'm stupid, but I'm not stupid, and I have to prove him wrong, and I have to teach him better or how to respect me, which is such a victim pattern. I'll make them better. Make yourself better, right? what I did was I started to look at him through his perspective. How can I actually not be so stupid? How can I not be so stupid? So, so it's this kind of consistent strategy of making myself a little less hateable, and stop fighting the thing that's literally a part of me, and start learning how to cohabitate in a way that, and so part of being less stupid is like, he would always test my stupidity by trying to tempt me, trying to scare me. And I would learn to resist the temptation, to recognize that he was a liar. And instead of begging him to not be a liar, to just be like, shut up. And these were big lessons for me. I had to, I'm not going to go through every lesson that I learned, but I looked at the whole thing as a map to my own learning. I looked at this demon as a teacher. Was that his intention? No, not maybe on the highest possible level of the universe, but not consciously. He really did hate me. He really did want to possess me. At one point, he really wanted to unalive me. And I learned that when I was really like, I'm going to get you, you should be scared, that things got really bad. The more I taunted him, the more bad things got. And I learned to respect him without groveling, without giving him any power, without giving him anything. So I didn't give him light. I didn't give him love. Well, I did in a way, but not in a way that energized him. So it was about tightening my boundaries, becoming less naive, becoming smarter, and dancing the dance with my own power. You can picture the scene in Mr. and Mrs. Smith where they're both trying to kill each other, and they're at this formal dance, and they're equally matched, so neither one of them gets killed. That's what you have to become to survive the demon, equally matched. Don't become like them, but become so boundaried and so smart and so savvy and so humble that, one, you don't make them want to hurt you, because they want to hurt you. The more arrogant you are, the more they want to hurt you. So being humble and respecting your enemy, which I think is just something that most people really miss about this. Most people are like, no, we got this. We're going to stand up to them. And like, the dark side is you. It's important. It's a refiner. It's part of an alchemical process. It's like trying to cut off your own arm. And I think that's the biggest mistake that the world makes when it comes to dealing with the darkness, is trying to sever it instead of dancing with it and letting it make you stronger. It's like, I live with a serial killer, so I'm going to have to become really savvy. And I like that in a way. I have found that, let me tell you something. This is something I've really been thinking about. And again, I always say, take my content with a grain of salt. I'm not the expert, but nobody is. What I will say is I've been through this stuff and I'm thinking out loud. And I'm kind of smart. I'm stupid and smart. But, so I spent 3 years in heaven, as I said. And what that was just, I cannot tell you what heaven's like. It's like, I want an apple shows up. The sky is always blue. The birds are always singing, yada, yada, yada. It's gorgeous. But I was not having fun. I was happy, but without my darkness, I was also inwardly desperate. I was desperate for people. I was desperate for connection, but not only connection, I realized I was desperate for darkness. And I felt this biblical, so much of my random Kundalini awakening was very biblical, and it was very like, God has a plan for you, be obedient, eat well, meditate, pray. And I was doing that not because I was religious, but because a literal angel, Archangel Michael, came and told me to. And with no training, it felt very important to just obey. It was like, you're Joseph from the Bible. You're going to be running Egypt if you do things right? And that's what I felt like. But that still plays into the submissive little feminine girl, right? If I'm good, daddy will reward me. And it's so crazy because going back to the dangers of spiritual bypassing and running for the manifestation kind of Abraham Hicks thing, I have this image of myself in 2023 like, you know, when a dog really trusts its owner and it lies on its back with its stomach exposed and like waiting for belly rubs. That was me, right? I was like, oh, universe, give me everything and spoil me. And I trust the manifestations that are coming in. And while I was there with my belly exposed and the whole universe just caressing me, ecstasy, it was like they were opening me up, opening me up, opening me up, so that every single horrifying, death-defying, evil entity could swarm in, and they did. With no warning. I was suddenly battling in the underworld to a terrifying degree for my life. A blood, broken bones, bloody ass battle. And that was real. So, you see, when I talk about playing with the shadow, I'm not joking. I think it's very important because I got slingshotted back. And you know, I didn't know about Buddhism before that, but Buddhists have talked to me since about my experience. And one of the most dangerous places you can be in samsara. So samsara has different levels. And one of them is the human. There's the hell realm. There's the animal realm. And there's the heaven realm. And heaven is actually one of the most dangerous realms because you go straight from heaven to hell. And the death of a heaven being is really bad. So I'm only learning this secondhand from Buddhists because they're resonating with my story, but I find that very compelling, and I did not know that. Every other religion touts heaven as a great place, and even the materialist thing, the Abraham Hicks thing, was like, manifest your dream world, you just have to feel good. They don't tell you that the moment you slip down, because you've wasted all your positive karma, and you haven't been playing in your own darkness, the darkness eats you alive. So the dark parts of you are just there growing, doing push-ups in the basement, waiting for their chance to drag you down. So let me get into the next part, which is the shadow play. And oh wait, I wanted to say too, and I guess this is a preamble to that, how much I actually enjoyed hell. I enjoyed my psychosis tremendously. Now there were times, especially at the end, I was so wasted away. I was on death's door, absolutely dying. It was too far at the end. It's almost like, and this is a big thing I want to talk about with shadow play, but it's like sex. You know, if you set up a play date with someone and you go, I want to go really dark, CNC, push the limits, and then they go too far. And that's part of the risks of the experience, So I felt that my experience went too far, but when I look back at it at the same time, at least I felt that way just coming out of it. I mean, it took years off my life, but I also had more fun than I've ever had in my life, including the time that I was in heaven. I had a lot of fun. Like, I would win a battle against my demon, and then I would be like riding my bike around the city, pulling up and listening to Trigger and these like really great war songs, and like ripping through dimensions and fighting the White House and channeling higher dimensional beings and getting sort of down and dirty with sexual fantasies with all of these really powerful men and getting into people's brains and feeling people inside me and having really good astral sex. All of my nightmares came true. And I think even more than all that, I also got to, like, I'm the kind of person, when I watch a movie, it's not escapism, it's blueprinting. When I watch an action movie, when I watch a sci-fi movie or a horror movie, I kind of look at it as practice. Like, I want to experience these things. I want to experience everything. And when I was working with Archangel Michael, he didn't want me to watch horror movies because I might manifest them. But I wanted to manifest them in the craziest way, and I did. I got to be the final girl. I got to run around on a broken foot all bloody in the farmlands, not sleeping and eating berries. I got that experience. I got to defy the tech gods. I got to develop extrasensory abilities and fight off demonic possession and come up with really clever ways to pit people against one another when they were coming for me. And it was like the most exciting video game in the world, but it's happening in my brain and in my body. So I mourn the life that it took from me. Like, I mourn that since 2020, I'm 5 years older and I haven't accomplished anything materially. And that hurts. Like, that part hurts a little. I look at some people that came in my psychosis, a woman in particular, and I look at her and how much she's accomplished, and how she gets to express herself through all her art and money and all of this, you know, to have the means and to have done all of that. And I regret that I've spent so much time working in the astral realm that my material life has atrophied. I don't think I would regret that as much if I were a bit younger, but what else it has done is this. I call him a fusion muse demon, because the demon that's now in me has good taste. He has really good taste. And the way that he's taught me inadvertently to think and to strategize and to create, and also helped me glimpse into the male mind and to understand darkness in a way that I can play with it. I feel like I'm somebody who can now walk through hell with impunity, you know? Because I don't let things in anymore the same way I used to. I've got good boundaries. And I feel like I am in a position now to make art like I've never made it before. I understand so much more, especially how others perceive things, which I didn't used to understand. So my demon is now my muse. And I let him look through my eyes as I create things. I'm now working on kind of a sexy new art endeavor, using myself, Orath. So instead of Eorath, it's Orath, as a kind of backrooms, liminal clown sex goddess. And this is a preamble. This is how I'm embracing the shadow, my shadow. Because I find that if I don't play with it externally, it comes for me in this psychosis. So again, the psychosis was fun, and I like extremes. I liked extreme heaven and extreme hell, but now it's time for balance. So that's my opening to how do you play with the shadow so that it doesn't externalize and eat you alive. And let me tell you, if you think, well, you're crazy, so you're going to get psychosis, but I'm not going to get psychosis. I don't need to worry about this. The shadow comes in other forms. So it may come as an autonomous being in your head, psychosis. That's if you're a high-level interdimensional being, or what they would call wanderer, more likely, because karma happens very fast and psychological rebalancing happens very fast when you're not meant to keep reincarnating on Earth. So that, if you wonder why is Robin's experience so intense, it's, in my estimation, I think, it's because I get karma instantly. I pay off all my karmic debts the day, the minute, the second I transgress. Because I'm designed to not stay here. So my life is brutal because I'm always balancing out now. Other people, Earth native people, play the game to the end, so they come here permanently, so they can feel out their karma over decades, over lifetimes rather. So it's intense for me. And a lot of people who are schizophrenic or bipolar, alcoholics, drug addicts, those are people who are from away, most likely, a lot of them anyways, and a lot of trauma. They're also transmuters, alchemists, so they put themselves in dark places so that they can transmute that energy. This is my theory, and it feels right to me, but who the hell knows? What was I saying? Oh yeah, other ways that the shadow can manifest for you. Number one, two, I put them side by side. Projection. You're just going to keep taking all the evil that's inside of you, all the bad that's inside of you, all the power that's inside of you, and seeing it in other people, and then hurting them, or being jealous of them, or being victimized by them, or victimizing them. He's the bad guy. So the emergence of these big bad guys in the world, and all you have to do to understand the shadow in the way it functions in society is look for the villains in the world. The more big villains there are, the bigger the shadow. And I think in the current zeitgeist, someone like Jordan Peterson is a good example of a really direct shadow creation, because everyone overnight was like, we have to always say use all of these words. And we have to all do this and we have to all do that. And everybody overnight was overwhelmed, right? And trying to get it right. And in all of that, immediately, it wasn't a chance to learn. People weren't having deep conversations about it and learning. They were just trying to get all the words right and say all the things right. And what that created, because they didn't actually learn tolerance and understanding and compassion for people who are different than them, that wasn't the transition. The transition was just to act right. And that creates a shadow. Because any part of them that still doesn't understand, any part of them that still says, oh, I don't want to do that. Any part of them that resists that is going to go project into another person. So Jordan Peterson was created by the archetype of the shadow that occurred when everyone started saying everything they were supposed to say instead of fully understanding it and integrating it. So he became the shadow side of that. And he spoke for the parts of people that they neglected, that were on the other side of that, or resisting that, or any part that wasn't integrated. So he became the voice of it. There's always going to be a shadow figure. So then the collective can point the finger at him and say, he's the problem, without recognizing that he was born of a kind of repression and imbalance. And if the whole thing was done in a more balanced way, he wouldn't be such a big figure. Does that make sense? So we can say the same thing about all of these men, Andrew Tate and Elon Musk and Donald Trump, all these boys. They're so big, right? And they're so bad and they're so vocal. And again, it's due to this imbalance of masculine, feminine in the world. The world has been overly masculine for a very, very long time, obviously. Men designed everything. And then overnight, it was the same thing. Overnight, we're like, okay, no, women matter, but we're not going to do it properly. We're just going to tell everyone to say the right things. And so again, all the boys are trying to act right, but they don't really understand. Women aren't actually, it's not, you can't make that kind of change overnight just by telling everyone to act right. It's a deep psychological transition, and true femininity being embraced would have this balance with it. But the emergence of these masculine figures that are just pure masculine, they're not integrated, they don't have any feminine in them, is proof that we're imbalanced right now in the way that we're trying to manifest feminine power. Because they're the shadow. They're the shadow of the masculine that still exists, and it becomes these characters. Does that make sense? I'm kind of figuring that out as I say it, really. So it's a bit of a transgression about collective shadow figures. Marilyn Monroe was the result of a completely repressed feminine at the time, and she decided to embody the archetype of that feminine. And she became a walking archetype. And these powerful men are walking archetypes in the collective as well right now. So that's the first thing. You project. You create someone else. And someone else is born of the energy of the repressed shadow to become a public figure, most likely. So a lot of celebrities are archetypes. The other thing that happens, or you manifest someone in your personal life to abuse you, or for you to abuse. You cancel someone, that person said something bad, that person did something bad, and you cancel them because you're afraid to look at your own self. Or you get sick. And I think boomers, like our parents, my parents' generation, that's their most likely manifestation of the shadow, is literally disease, cancer. Cancer is repressed emotion, especially anger and sadness. So the more that you don't express the emotion, the more that you don't express your perversion or your power or whatever it is, the more that you don't express, the more the cells under the repression of that expression begin to mutate and get sick and eat themselves. It's kind of like an energetic backlog, if you can picture that. And then you get sick. So I mean, you look at the Victorian era. It's probably the most repressed era, and you had more people going insane and serial killers, and the more repressed, the more big the monsters. The more well-behaved everybody is, the deeper the shadow, and it will come. So now we get to shadow play. And in my opinion, shadow play is crucial in keeping this balance. And what I mean by shadow play is, instead of lashing out and hurting somebody or hurting yourself or letting the shadow eat you alive, you play with it deliberately. You dance with it deliberately. And a lot of this, I like art and sex for shadow play. So what I mean is, instead of saying, no, I'm not this, I'm not that, my culture doesn't like that, my parents don't like that, my own brain doesn't like that about myself. You admit it to yourself, and then you play with it. Anything that bothers you, anything that bothers you is a shadow element. Anything that titillates you is a shadow element. So the way I'm playing with it is, so I see a lot of my shadow had to do with power. I had denied my power, which is why my shadow was such a powerful being. Power and greed. It's not even greed, really. It's materialism in actually a way that I want to embrace, because I recognize. So money is a shadow for me. Money is a shadow for me because, here's the example. I'm trying to think of an end to show you how to play with your shadows, because there are a million ways. One thing is to embrace the thing that you don't like about your, like if everyone was making fun of you for being short, or for having little boobs or big boobs, or a small dick or a big dick, embrace that, play that up. And I think that TikTok and OnlyFans and all of these online forums are really showing people that they can fetishize the thing that they get made fun of for. That can be the thing. That can be their whole thing. You're creepy. Yes, I am. Let me build a persona to play with being creepy. And I see people who are really successful doing that on TikTok, and I love that. So embrace the creep, right? So to me, money, I spent a lot of my life in relative poverty. Like I waitressed a lot. I lived in rooming houses and had roommates for most of my life. So I've also had a bit of a safety net. So I won't say that I've been like totally impoverished, but it's like I could survive, go home and live if I wanted to, but it's been a strain. And there was a brief period in 2019 where everything was coming together, and I started making money, like enough money to not only pay my rent, but like to buy things and go on. I even went on a vacation. And I remember how the bank treated me, and I remember how people treated me in general. Once I was somebody who didn't have to look at the price at a restaurant, or who could wear clothing that was a little bit nicer than H&M. And so to me, so money became a preoccupation of mine, because I really like being treated well, and I really like traveling in comfort, and I really like living in comfort. I like having my own place to live in a nice city or a country or a house, and I like the safety net that money provides. That might not sound like a shadow, but I'm artist class. I'm the creative class, and in the creative class, liking money or wanting money is very taboo. It's very problematic. And that's something I was highly criticized for when I was canceled as a writer, was wanting money, wanting to make money. So I've been grappling with that. And so part of my shadow play is, instead of being like, I'm not trying to make money, I'm trying to help people and blah, 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 blah. I'm actually going, and that's true too. But my shadow play is to go lean in completely. So I've revamped my persona, and I'm this, and the other thing too was being sexy, right? I'm intellectual and I'm creative. I'm not supposed to be sexy. That's also repulsive to the community I was in. So my sex and money were the aspects of myself that were a problem in my community and at school and everywhere. So those are the things I'm leaning into with the play. So I'm playing for sex and money. I'm playing with sex and money. And my persona is, she's like, I want your money. I want to fuck your mind and take your money. And that's very liberating. So I'm not repressing that or trying to cover it up anymore or denying it. I'm going to lean into it, exaggerate it, and play with it. It's like Buffon. It's the clowning, and that's why I embrace the clown. Is take the thing that you're ashamed of, take the thing that your community doesn't like, and create an alternate persona and lean into it. So that's one way to play with the shadow. And I'm doing it blatantly. I'm totally letting my freak flag fly because I'm so sick of everything. I'm so sick of caring what people think. And I want to slap normalcy in the face. But you can also do this just through sexuality. I think that in the bedroom is a really good place. Like if you're a man and you're violent and you're a little like you want to just degrade somebody and you have certain inclinations like that, take them to the bedroom. Take them to the bedroom. And I always picture a good relationship has a good basement. I think a healthy relationship is all the healthy things above ground and all the depraved things below ground. Like, you're mad at me, okay, let's go to the basement, you know? I think that there's a movie called Babadook that's about that, where a woman has this really annoying kid and she kind of hates him. And that births this demon, this under the bed kind of monster that's tormenting the kid and her. And in the end, she ends up locking the monster in the basement, and every time her kid's a bit of a little shit, she goes down to the basement and satiates the demon. And that's what we need to do. And I would go a step further, not just recommending to you that you find a way to embrace your shadow and think about what it is. And it's usually the thing you're ashamed of and the thing you're running away from. Like, for me, sex and money, yes. And also my demon, he loves money and power. And so that means that I had been shying away from money and power my whole life. But I'm a very powerful, magnetic person. So I'm going to lean into it and be like, okay, maybe. And also he's dangerous. And I was never dangerous. I was such a lamb. So now I'm leaning into, I want money. I don't really have sex, but I love my own sexuality. And I love power, and I'm willing to be brutal. And I used to be none of those things. And I always thought my karma was so good because I didn't hurt people, but it's actually not. Letting people hurt you is just as bad karma as hurting other people. So you're not doing better by not being violent, or not being capable of violence. So I have become capable of violence, not like I'm going to hurt somebody. Don't quote me on that. I'm not looking to be violent towards people, but I embrace my own brutality. Like, I will ruin you before you can ruin me, trust me. And most of the suffering in my life came from the repression of these aspects of myself. I sat on my power my whole life, and that's the embarrassing part. And it's not just the psychosis that stopped me from succeeding. It was my own smallness. It was my own lack of ambition. But that being said, I'm still not sure if I want to be ambitious or not. Now, I have a friend who's a director, and he's doing a big film and going to Cannes soon. And he's always saying, Robin, you're so talented and you have such a good story. You need to write it. You need to make your book. You need to make your film. You need to be on the red carpets. But I've looked down those timelines in my psychosis, and I don't like the people on those red carpets. And I don't know if that's what I want. I don't know if that's what I want. So I need to think about ambition. I need to think about that. I would almost rather live an obscure, twisted life with really interesting people in a hidden place. Being a public figure isn't all it's cracked up to be. So these things are still undecided, but the point is, the thing I'm trying to give you is to find those aspects of yourself that you're ashamed of or you're hiding. Identify them and lean into them. And if you have to create an alternate personality, take acting classes. I take clowning and acting classes and storytelling classes. And find a way to live that persona. I think of comic books, like how many geeky boys in high school and university started at writing the comic book of their superhero alter ego to live vicariously through them. And the villains too. You know, I really identify with the Joker profoundly, hence my clown motif. And I think that the Joker speaks for a collective shadow profoundly, and he always has. The archetype of the Joker is always a great part of the collective shadow. And he's allowed to say things. When you're making people laugh, you can get away with more. So, yeah. Remember, if you want to support the podcast, follow on Substack. If you want to support the Sexy Shadow Play, you can support through my website and click around some links there and explore and see how deep you want to go there. And don't be afraid. You know, the world doesn't... You think the world needs you to be better behaved, but it's a boring world. I don't know if you've looked outside lately, but it's boring. People are boring. People are not interesting. It's not colorful anymore. It's not diverse anymore. It's not diverse. Everyone is acting the same, and it's driving me crazy. So I want to see some people embodying insanity, and I think that when you embody insanity, you're less likely to go insane. That's my opinion. Repression breeds distortion and externalized problems. So own that shit. Own your violence. People who are like, oh, I don't like violent music or violent movies or violent... It's like, but we have violence in us. And wouldn't you rather it be in a video game or a movie than in real life? That being said, I know that video games are manipulative and some of them actually do promote violence in a way that creates increased amounts of violence. So there's paradox there. Some of it's sublimation and some of it is actually really negative imprinting. So we have to, you have to be careful, right? And that's a caveat that I want to offer is you can also fall too deep into your shadow play and get consumed by it. So you need to keep a balance. You need to play with it intelligently. So I'm not saying jump in and do all the drugs and have all the sex and do all the violence. I'm not saying that. I'm saying find a healthy way. Be taboo, play with it, be theatrical about it, and explore yourself. Don't be like, oh no, I'm not that thing. That thing that everyone says is bad, I'm not that thing. Well, are you just saying that? Are you just running an automatic script of being well-behaved? Like, what's the truth? Because I will tell you, and I'll do an episode soon on the near-death experience, when you die, you get faced with all the crap that you pretended you weren't. You're going to have to reckon with it. You're going to see it. Oh, I was sexist all along. Oh, I was judgmental all along. And then you've got to come back and do it all over again. And it's not fun. So wake up, look at yourself honestly now, and let the humiliation be your catalyst for change. Allow yourself to be humiliated. You're just a phony who wants money. Okay. I accept that. It's humiliating. I accept that. And now I'm going to lean into it. And it's not always all true. It's like I don't think I'm a phony. I think I have really good insights to offer. I really do. And I like to help people. So those things are also true. So not letting the demon trick you into thinking you're not also good. But it's also true that I really, really, really want a lot of money. I do. I love it. And I love, like on a fetish level almost, I love the idea of people with lots of it giving me lots of it. Like there's almost, I think it's, this is just, I'm just going to get personal for a bit, but I think it's like the no daddy syndrome. It's like daddy left when I was little and I never had a man take care of me. And I kind of have a fetish about a man taking care of me, but without any strings attached, you know, the ultimate fetish. But I'm just going to acknowledge that and then play with it and find ways to monetize it where I'm not signing away my soul. Because unfortunately, most men taking care of you scenarios in the world require submission and self-negation. So no, no, not doing that. But playing with the desire and acknowledging the desire and not just saying, it's not good, so I'm going to let it go. I'm going to like externalize and my taboos and make them productive. And honestly, I think in moving forward, the best business models are going to be about embracing taboos because we've repressed everything. Remember when Tumblr was really nasty? Like really expressive and really problematic? I think that was an important space. And that was the other thing I'm going to say, public spaces for taboo expression and not just fetish clubs, because fetish clubs are still a culture of assimilation. Like everyone has to be the same kind of in the fetish. It's like you still have to act like everyone else. But more things like old Tumblr was. And I think online has become so insane. We can't really do it online as much, but finding ways to be more real and risque in real life. I would love literally public spaces that are more grungy, more real, more, here's one more insight. I'm reading this book by Scott Peck called A Different Drum, and it's about community building. And he makes such a profound point because the way he builds communities is, he says, look, here's the invitation, anyone can come. So the community isn't like, oh, it's all for gamers. Oh, it's all for fetish people. Oh, women only. It's for literally anybody. And that is so good because you can have a 24-year-old skater and an 82-year-old war vet and a 32-year-old alcoholic. Only everybody's two. But you've got a mixture of people. Some of them are conservative. Some of them are liberal. And they're not in community because they are all the same and they all agree. They're in community, period. And they can cohabitate with their differences, because one of the great violences that we do is we require assimilation for community. That's not community, in my opinion. That creates shadows because we're not all the same. You have to believe what I believe, especially in academia. Oh my God. Everyone had to think the same or you'd be outcasted. And you'd never get anywhere. I mean, it's life or death for so many people, the tribalism. It's like, if you don't agree with us, we'll never publish you. We'll never give you any awards. We might not even graduate you, and you're certainly not getting invited to any parties. You have to agree with us. And true community is, I could be in the middle of being like, as a woman, I want to take my power back in the world, and I want to gain the respect that I haven't for a long time. And I remember going through that in my mid-20s. And for me to sit in a room next to a man who's like, women should be in the kitchen. And me to be like, oh, George, do you want a piece of pie? Who cares what George thinks? George doesn't have to agree with me. I'm not going to kick him out for thinking women should be in the kitchen. I mean, I probably wouldn't offer him a piece of pie just because I was laying into his thing, but you know what I mean. Like George is George. George is allowed to think whatever the hell he wants. And it was interesting when, I'm just going to go on and on, when I was going through that stuff in my 20s, I started a literary magazine called Manila Review. And it was a space because I was a young attractive girl in writing. And so everyone looked at me like, oh, whose dick did you suck to get published? And it wasn't until I got older and won the awards and had the like obviously good books that people stopped asking me that question. But I created my own magazine to say I want to give women a space to get published where no one's going to ask them whose dick they sucked, because I don't have a dick. and that was it. Like, I was just like, I want to just make my own space, because I'm so sick of stupid men thinking that they're better than me, and they're not. They suck. Like, the men who would roll their eyes at me without reading my work were really bad poets, and I was a really good poet. Just true. So I wanted to just create the space, but my point is, people started to project onto me that I hated, people would sort of, I remember one girl saying to me, she was just opening up to me, and she's like, I miss having a boyfriend because like my fan's broken, and I don't want to, she's like, I shouldn't say this to you because I know you're a feminist and I don't want you to disrespect me, or I don't want you to not think I'm a proper feminist because I want a man to fix my fan. And I was like heartbroken, because that's the opposite. Like, I was giving a space for women to say whatever they wanted. Literally, a woman could write in and say, I think women are stupid and men are great, and that would be great. That's a woman expressing herself. I wasn't opening a space to judge women for how they live. I also want a man to fix my fan. I don't have a fan, but I have a dresser that I haven't put together since I moved into this apartment, and I could really use a man. Sometimes I was like, oh, I wish a man was here to stop me from painting this place this color. Like, not that he could really stop me, but just a second opinion. But anyways, my point is, what was my point? Yeah, for me, when I try to find my power is about saying whatever is true and having a space to do it. And when I create a space for other people, I want them to say what is true for them. And part of my shadow play and that sort of sex shadow stuff that I offer is giving people who come to me a chance to say exactly what they want, exactly what their fantasies are, exactly what their shadow side is. And it's not judgment. I say, no, that's wrong. I like to give a platform for truth and space for truth. And I like curating things, because when other people curate things, it's really like you all have to be the same. And that's just a bunch of baloney. And that goes back to cohabitating with the demon. I mean, I literally have something fused inside of me that is so evil. But I've learned to live with him. I've learned to see the places where I can benefit from his presence. I mean, he's so judgmental, it makes me better. And that's life, man. That's life. And trust me, life's better the more diverse your communities. It really is. And we have so much to work on in ourselves. There's no time to go figuring out what everyone else should be. You should be more this. You should be more... Oh my God, shut up. I'll work on myself, thank you very much. She's a mess. This girl's a mess. I don't need to tell you what to be. And that's how shadows get aired. You know, if that old sexist man in the group gets to express himself, eventually through exposure and truth, he might start to change his mind a little. But he's not going to change his mind because you judge him and kick him out. And it's okay if he doesn't change his mind. It's okay for an old man to be sexist. That's life. You know? What else can I say before I leave you? I don't know. I don't know. If you have comments, go to YouTube and you can make the comment underneath there. I'll probably be rebranding again. You can see my Instagram is a little different. I'm still trying to find my place, but I'm interested in this taboo expression for sure. And we'll see what comes out. But I hope that here's the other thing, cringe. Like, since my psychosis, I've worn like 12 different hats, and I keep trying different things. And from the outside, I look insane. But from the inside, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm enjoying messing around. You know? So allowing yourself to be a little cringe and to make mistakes and to get messy, I think, is really important. I think people are so precious that they I don't know, it's not fun to be precious. Let everyone think you're a lunatic. Experiment. I love it. I don't judge you. I love seeing people make asses of themselves online. I certainly have more times than I care to admit. And I think it's cool. So, all right. Until next week.